Yeah, no, I'm not trying to get to Charles Murray right now. I'm trying to make an analogy between the assumption that historical circumstance and oppression and suffering have precluded applying the presumption of free will to the victims of American racism. And the assumption that partially genetically influenced expressions of intellectual ability as measured by test scores preclude African Americans from performing in a college classroom or avoiding some social dysfunction like criminal behavior or something like that. The predeterminism element of these arguments. One argument comes from the left. It says history has dealt Blacks a bad hand. We have been oppressed and we have been beaten and we abused. What can you expect but that you would see pathological behavior? It's fixed by the historical inheritance. The wealth gap is what it is because we didn't get the hand down from our parents, because they didn't get the hand down from their parents. What can we do? The crime rate is what it is. The test scores are what they are, et cetera. Fixed by history, predetermined. And the genetic argument, it's in your genes. What can we expect? Do the best you can. We'll respect you as a human being, but we won't expect you to be doing calculus, or we won't expect you to be performing at a high level. And if we see that you're not a good parent, or that you break the law frequently, or that you're more often involved in violence, while we regret that, we can't say that we're surprised, because after all, you're genetic, et cetera, et cetera. Well, those arguments have something in common with one another. And from a spiritual, not religious point of view, from the point of view of thinking the human being, unlike the animal king, the rest of the animal kingdom, we have a spirit, we have a will, we have a capacity to make ourselves. We can be self-critical. We can, notwithstanding the givens, which are our historical inheritance, whether it be genes or some kind of socio-political structure, nevertheless will ourselves to be differently in the world than what has been the case. We can be better. And I say that not just for individuals, and this is really the point that the other second point I want to make. I say it for communities, the collectivity. We have a collective consciousness, a kind of cultural orientation, which we can influence with our literature, with our politics, with our public life. We can teach our children differently. We can hold up ideals that they can be reflected in our journalism and in our art and in our social life. There's a better and a worse way of living. We can say to the gangbangers who are killing each other on the streets of Chicago like crazy, last weekend was a horrible weekend, we can say to them, be better. We mean that you can live differently than what you're living. And we can hold that up as an ideal. A good Black person would not live like this, would not neglect to take care of their children, would make the best out of their opportunities. Sloth is bad. Self-pity is bad. Live a life of dignity. But if you embrace this predeterminism, whether it be a genetic or a cultural, historical predeterminism, you say all the outcomes are already fixed. You make it almost impossible for a community to marshal its moral resources on behalf of teaching its members what it means to live rightly and to live well. It's a demoralization. It's a fundamental demoralization to take these predetermined positions, it seems to me. So,
Glenn, that was too good. That was an aria. And I'm annoyed now because.
Thank you.
Because will you please send that to the Times? Will you please write that up? Because I'm sitting here thinking I want to write it, but then I'd be stealing it from you. You do it. That should be in writing. I hate to say that, but.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate the feedback.